Aren't you so funny?
Okay, here we are. Good morning, everyone. Here we are. We're shorthanded,
Oh,
but the
the
show must
title.
go on. Jackie, you're laughing.
That title is accurate.
You like
Why
that
can't I
title? Did
see
you see
the?
the title? The
Why
title
can't
is
I see it?
upper left.
Yep, title.
Good morning to those of you who are joining us. It may not be morning if you're joining us. You might be joining us on video. You might be joining us on audio. The title of today's live is "Getting Slammed." Now that has multiple meanings, and we will be discussing that shortly. But I don't think you want to miss this. This is kind of a continuation of a conversation we had last week. Last week we had a conversation that started out with the concept of FOMO, fear of missing out. This is something that anyone who's trying to lose weight suffers from. And then it got into the spiritual. It necessarily got into the spiritual. And I think that's going to kind of continue this week. So we're going to be getting to that shortly. Before we do, Jackie, you have a couple of things to do, and you have to bear extra weight today since Jen's not with us.
Oh man, well I don't have a testimonial, but I can do some of
That's
the fabulous
fine. Yeah.
things.
Oh, by the way, we don't have a testimonial today, but rest assured, there are a lot of people losing a lot of weight and feeling great. Is that correct, Trish?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't want anyone to think that just because there's no testimonial, we're not reading any testimonials, that good things aren't happening.
Well, if
But
you
wait,
want,
there is one good thing that will happen, Dr. R. You won't get upset over the binging.
Okay. Well, that's a separate note,
This is
but
true.
good. There won't be any bigging today. Okay. Now, Jack, what do you have for us
We
today?
have a couple of things, but to start, if anybody is wants to see what's going on with testimonials, you can also go to our website.
Oh yeah, we're loaded. How many do we have? Like millions, I think.
No, there are a ton, and they are ours. You can see they are handwritten. You will see that they're from each and every client.
Right. Well,
Great.
I said millions. You said a ton. So hyperbole aside, how many
What
are there?
they-
There are many dozens. Would you
Many
say?
there really are. There are a slew of them. I can even go to it when
There's
we
a
share.
slew.
A slew. How many
A
other words can we
plethora.
come?
There's hundreds and there's hundreds, but
Well,
I don't know
there's
how many are on our site.
There's definitely hundreds.
Okay.
Definitely
All right.
hundreds.
Good. So where are you starting, Jack? Because you have a couple of things to do. I think you have a recipe for us, but also there's a raffle that we have to do.
There's a raffle that actually ended last week. So this is actually a lot of fun. This is really paying it forward. So for any of our clients who purchase a program during our raffle, I'm sorry, I said that backwards again. I need better. I can't function without coughing. For any of our clients who made a purchase of a program, they were entered into this raffle. This raffle it's another program that Dr. Enelstein and the staff have created that nobody's been able to purchase yet, which is really cool. So this is the Thinkless program.
Right, there's a big announcement, Jackie. You're saying it like you're just reading a textbook.
No, okay. So give it more fluff. Tell me. Jump in.
It's a brand new program that I created. So I created two new programs. Everyone's going to be finding out about this. These are beginner programs. These are intro programs. And we have one for the person who overthinks and one for the person whose metabolism stinks.
Yep.
See how that rhymed? You like that?
Very good. See, yeah. I couldn't have done that on the cusp.
So the program that we're giving away now, this intro program, we call it the Thinkless program. And the idea is this: we're all so overwhelmed. We are getting slammed. You see, there it is again.
Yes.
We're getting slammed. We're overwhelmed. We think about too much. We have too much data coming at us. I created this program so a person does not have to think. They can concentrate on just executing, losing weight, paying attention to the other parts of their lives. So that's what we're giving away, Jack?
Yes, you are. So what we're doing is we're going to spin the wheel. And whoever wins this program, it's not for you. You have to gift this to somebody.
You have to gift it.
This is not for clients who are currently on any of our programs or that have done our programs. This is not meant for you.
Okay.
You gotta pay it forward. Gotta pay it forward. So think of somebody you'd really like to give this to. Give them a nice Kickstarter. And of course, us.
All right. So let's spin that wheel, Vanna.
All right. So share the screen with me. Let me see. This allows me to do this. Window.
See, if I was thinking, we would have started off with the screen shared.
All right. Well, do you see my screen?
Nope.
No.
I have to add it to the stream. Do you see it now?
No.
Mm-mm.
Do you see it?
I do.
Wait. Okay,
What?
I see it. Here we go.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Okay. So this. Hold on. Vanna.
All right, Vanna, click to spin. Click to spin.
Let's do it. Come on. What are we waiting for?
Got it.
Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna
Speaking
be?
of coffee, let me just talk while this is happening. So speaking of coffee, you could spin, Jack.
Spin again.
I gave up
Oh,
coffee 2 years ago. Oh, Joe Escalise.
There we go. So
There
Joe won. That's it.
Joe
He
is
gets to
from our.
gift me. Go
What,
ahead.
Jack?
He gets to gift our the Thinkless program.
Joe, we are giving, if you're watching us, we are giving you an intro program to gift to somebody else. We are giving you the gift of giving the gift of health to somebody else.
Yeah.
All right. And Joe's a great guy. Joe's in our Cranford office. He loves sports. He loves the Mets. I tease him sometimes about that. But he's a really good guy. And congratulations, Joe. And
that's
are we going to
awesome.
see him today, Trish?
Wednesdays.
Wednesday. Okay, so we'll see him on Wednesday. In the meantime, we'll contact him. We're not going to do the thing where we call him out of the blue. I don't think he'd appreciate that.
Well, call him right on the spot.
Probably at the beach.
Good
He's
for
probably
him.
at the beach. He's sunning himself. All right, and Jack, do you have a recipe?
I do actually. So this is I made this once before. Not on program, but this is a clean post program. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, I think I have a way that you guys can finagle this on program. They're bell pepper snack bites. This is perfect for the beach, perfect poolside.
Bell pepper snack bites.
Yep. So you can take a bell pepper, any colors. Of course, my family prefers the red ones. Slice them up, but you want to cube them. So you want them semi-thick. You don't want super thin strips. Okay. And then they make, it's called Borson is the brand, feta spread. Now, I'm going to give you something else. I know Dr. R doesn't like a lot of steps, so bear with
the
me.
fewer steps, the better. We're doing a recipe right now, so
This is the
fewer
easiest
steps, the
thing.
better.
You're going to clean it. You're going to chop them up. You're going to smear the feta on top and slice avocado. Put that on top as well and sprinkle it with the Everything Bagel seasoning. So good.
Wow.
Bite size, pop them in your mouth. They are so delicious. Really, really good. Of course, on program, you can't do feta or your avocado. So what you would do you could also, my favorite alternative is the cottage cheese. So you want to take that out, whip it, keep it in the fridge. You want it to get back to now being from a liquid to a little kind of fluffy because you have to be able to spread it. And you can do the same thing and you could sprinkle the home style ranch on it, which is our Spice Gal seasoning.
Is that what you recommend? So there's a lot you can do with cottage cheese. Cottage cheese obviously kind of takes on the flavor of whatever you're mixing it with.
It does. I mean, everybody has, so some people don't mind the lumps. I personally, before program, couldn't even stand the look of it. I'm like, this is disgusting. I'm like, I don't know how, and I like oatmeal, cream of wheat, things with that texture, but it wasn't the same. Something cold with those lumps, I was skeeving it. And then once I kind of played around with it, I tasted it once. I said, this has got to, there's got to be something to this because there are people that can just eat this without anything mixed. Blending it, anything you add to it as a base, it does take on other flavors. So don't be afraid to season your food. Don't be afraid to add flavors to it and get creative. Do it in little batches even. And it really works well. It freezes well, which is good because I made those so-called faux yogurt bites, the bark. It freezes very well in a sheet pan. You could make it into a mousse texture. So you really have a lot of control with it and you feel like you're not missing out on anything.
Cottage cheese is an underrated food, and not because it's necessarily good. I don't love cottage cheese, but you could do so much with it. It's so versatile.
Agreed. Like I can't do it as a standalone, but I really do like on a regular basis. We always have it in the house now. I use it on a ton of things. I've used as an alternative to feel like I was having something creamy with a pasta where I would do it with zoodles. I've used it as an alternative for a cold dip where I've done it with our Everything Bagel dip. I've done it with the chive. I kind of makes me think like I'm having sour cream. Although sour cream is not terrible for you post-program. Obviously, it's a no-no on program. But you adapt to the taste and you almost feel like it holds more flavor. You tend to use that more.
Right. So very simply, Jack, just to reiterate, you're taking the pepper, you're cutting up the pepper into thick slices.
Yep.
Then you're blending the cottage cheese. You're flavoring it up. You like to do with everything bagel flavor.
So I actually top off the Everything Bagel seasoning. So the two ways that I suggest to do this, you're going to make those large pieces of the bell pepper, 2x2 or long rectangular pieces, however you want to call it. Spread on, if you're using the feta spread, you can use feta post-program. and a couple of cubes of your avocado. Smear it right on top. Sprinkle it with the everything bagel. If you're
So even I could make this, except I don't like the
Easy.
idea of that. You know, if I have to whip the cream cheese, that means then I have to clean out the processor. So
Well-
that's the only thing that might stop me. But I use the stick blender.
you can
I
do it with
think
that. That's fine.
The stick blender is the best way to
You
go.
can totally
Agreed?
do that. That's fine.
All right.
But you know,
good.
just so you know, if you get the larger tub, and this is just another, you know, make my life easier. I blend the entire tub because the truth is I will never have it with the lumps anyway. So if you just do it once, and then you can just scoop it out to whatever you're making, your dip, your filling, whatever it is, it's already blended. Don't do it as you go. It's too much work.
Well, there it is, everyone, from the Doc Brown of Cook. It's our own Jackie.
Me.
Listen, I promised everyone. Okay. I promised everyone that what we were going to get in today is important. It's kind of an extension of what we were talking about last week. So let me just reiterate a little bit what we went over last week. We started out talking about the fear of missing out and how the fear of missing out affects us when we're trying to lose weight, because there's always something coming up. There are always events, right, Trisha?
Always.
How about you, Corinne? Do you notice that there's always events? Your
Always.
in-laws, you
I
told me your
actually had this-
in-laws, they pig out.
I actually had this argument, or not argument, heated discussion this weekend
About
how when you're on a diet and you're at your friend's house and it's like, oh, I'll just eat that cupcake today. I'll just do this today. And if we got into the topic of, well, it's okay, you can just have a little. And then the person was like, well, are you talking about your health or are you talking about losing weight? Because they're two totally different topics. And, you know.
and
here
what
we
did you
are.
conclude?
I concluded that you have to talk about your health, because if you eat bacon and you just reduce your calories, basically, because they were arguing with me, telling me if you just reduced your calories, no matter what, you'll lose weight and you'll get healthier.
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah, that is certainly not always true, right?
And I was like,
here's
go
where the
check your
con-
cholesterol after you lose 50 pounds and ate bacon every day. It won't help.
Here's where the conversation though went, because it went to a very interesting place. I suggested that the problem is that we've been conditioned to be dictated to by our bodies. Our body says we're hungry and it becomes a matter of survival. So we want to give in to that hunger. We want to eat. Our body says we're afraid and then we run away, right? It becomes about sensations and cues that we're getting from the body. And then what I suggested was there has to be a way where we could get beyond that, where we could just project ourselves to become our ideal selves, to where we are not motivated by those cues or sensations. We're not motivated by anything that's extrinsic. We're just totally what some psychologists would call self-actualized or self-determined. And I got a little bit of pushback from my lovely staff. Trish and Corinne were kind of like, well, how is that possible? That's impossible. That can't be done. And I haven't done it yet, but I don't know that it's impossible. I don't think that it's necessarily impossible. It might be just as simple as making that decision, of projecting into the future and saying, okay, this is the who I'm going to be, so I might as well just save some time and be that who right now. Now, Trisha, what were your thoughts on that idea?
I think sometimes you have the thought of that who you want to be, but then you get to that moment and it just doesn't happen, you know, whether it's fear or I think a lot of it is fear, like of what will be, you know, I don't know. I've always have that thought of I'm going to do something, do it. And then I get there and I'm like,
This was a good idea until I got here.
Yeah, it's not everything I thought it would be.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
why.
So you have those great intentions,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And you're going to be bigger than your circumstances. And then you find yourself in the actual situation and it's a different story,
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
right?
And then you say, why did I do this? I
Yeah.
thought it was a good idea.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that reminded me of something interesting also, because why is it that we can't do that? Why can't we be larger than our circumstances? And why can't we kind of separate our consciousness from our body and just say, okay, you're not going to dictate to me. I'm going to dictate to you. This is not a democracy. This is a complete dictatorship. There are people who do life like that, aren't there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. So why can't we do it? What do you think? What do you think, Corinne and Jackie?
You know, I think it's funny. So I actually had this realization, and I mean, I'm guilty of it myself too. You know, we all are, right? Because if I'm not owning it, I'd be totally lying, right? I'm far from perfect. I always try, but I even give up on myself. You know, and it's not like I don't know. It's so hard. Like, how do you justify? Well, why am I not investing the time in myself like I would in everything else that I'm doing?
Right.
Why is it that still at the end of the day I know the right things to do, but I'm just not
doing them,
committing, or I'm not holding to it exactly, or like completing on it, or I'm right there, and then I start to like reward myself negatively. Now I understand that it's negative. Like, what is it that I'm doing? Why can't I just hold through for myself the way I would do for my family, my children, my friends, and anything, my work, my job, everything I do is always 110%. But why is it when I come to myself, I set myself up for failure? Or why do I go back?
And what have you concluded?
I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. And I beat myself up. I just had this conversation with my cousin actually the other day. And I'm like, it's the craziest thing. Like, you know, we have a family vacation coming up in the fall. And we're all talking about like, okay, some of our cousins and family we haven't seen since before COVID. And we're all going away together and all this other stuff. And he's like, man, he goes, I can't be the big one by the pool. I'm like, well, me either. And now here we are in July. And I'm like, that's around the corner. You know, like what's happening?
Yes. And if anyone is joining us right now, the conversation we're having is, why can't we just instantly become our best selves? Why can't we project ourselves into who we're supposed to be, which is this radical idea that I didn't come up with originally. Other people have suggested that in history, but I suggested it last week. And everyone's kind of response, I think, is, well, we've tried that. And it's really difficult to do. And there's a shade of difference what you were saying, Jackie, and they are totally related. You were talking about like, why can't I do what I say I'm going to do?
Right.
And the solution and the possibility that I'm talking about is to actually projecting yourself into who you're supposed to be. And that is who you would obviously be, right? You would be totally in control.
Yeah.
If you had the ability to do that.
Right. Like what am I afraid of? Like
I don't even think it's afraid. I just think it's more for myself, you know, I'm constantly putting others first. And I'm constantly like, oh, you want breakfast today? I'll make you breakfast. And then my husband comes home and he goes, oh, what'd you eat for dinner today? Oh, well, there wasn't enough of this. So I just skipped dinner today. Like, oh, I just had one piece because I thought I took out enough chicken and there wasn't enough. So, you know, and then you end up, for example, foraging and eating things that you shouldn't be eating because you held back and you gave it to somebody else. And I'm constantly guilty of that. Like, we're doing for others because there are everythings, right? And
yeah,
at the end of the day,
this is a larger conversation than just kind of food and diet and things like that. Do you believe that that's what's stopping you from becoming your ultimate self? That you're always just considering others and you don't consider yourself?
Absolutely. I put myself last.
Okay, so if you were to project yourself into who you are supposed to be, into your ideal you, and like not wait until you grow into that, right? Because we all have this understanding, well, inevitably this is who we're going to be. If we decided to say, okay, screw that, I'm just doing it right now, I know exactly who it is that I'm supposed to be, I have that ideal in my head, and I'm just going to save myself, like 30 years or so, right? Is it the fact that you're dealing so much with other people that you believe is stopping you from being that ultimate you? Me
personally, yes. Yeah. I do not put myself first. Everybody else comes before me.
And other than that, if you made a decision not to do that, then suddenly you would be the ideal.
When I say to myself, nope, it's my time, that's when I'm successful. And that's when I feel like my brain, for example, is not as foggy. And I feel like everything is more clear because I am putting myself first. So that means not only putting myself first, like I'm putting myself first from a health perspective, from making sure I'm exercising, also making sure that like the things that I need to do are getting done. and saying to myself, it's okay if this doesn't get done. It's okay if that doesn't get done, because I feel better about everything in general.
Well, let me suggest something here. I'm going to suggest, and this is where we ended off last time, because I think it was either you, Corinne, or it was Trisha who kind of challenged me, about why is it so difficult to do that? I think Trisha, and she repeated it again today. You said, well, you always have that idea in mind. You've tried to do that. You're trying to do that, and then it's hard. And here is what I would say. I think it comes down to being slammed. I think it comes down to getting slammed. And here's what I mean. Every time as a person, as a being, you thought you could fly, you got slammed by gravity. Every time you thought, okay, that's it, I'm a possibility, I am so powerful that I could do whatever it is that I want to do, suddenly you walked out into the street and you slipped, or someone made a negative comment. And the world seemingly is this big machine that's designed to smack you back down and slam you into thinking that these possibilities aren't even possibilities. What do we think about this as a theory?
Going against the wind.
What do you mean?
Well, I always feel like there's always something larger than my plan, essentially. So there's no matter what I do, like I always make the joke, and I laugh off a majority of everything, because I always say, like, it's not my plan anyway. Like I'm going with the motions, and I'm doing the best that I can with what I have. So I think, and you always just feel like you get 2 steps forward and then there's 3 steps back. There's always just something in the way that, I guess, I'm assuming it's, the mental connection. Maybe it's just mentally stopping me, or I'm allowing things to get in my way. So is it because that's really, something is stopping me, or is it me stopping me?
Well, what do you think?
Depends on when you ask. Like today, nothing is stopping me. I'm tired, and it's motivating me to be like, you know what? I have a million things to do. Today's gonna be a productive day. And I'm just like, I'm hitting the ground running, especially that last week. I don't know about everybody else, but last Monday, being off on that Monday, it was the weirdest thing. It totally threw me off. Yeah. Every day, I had no concept of my days last week for some reason. And we were crunching together a busy work week. And I'm like, what? It's Wednesday? Really? I'm way off. So I think that that's motivating me to push through, and I will. And I always do, and I'll rally and I get it done. But in terms of myself, I can easily see with my plan for this week how I will be on the back burner. My intentions are set high today, that I'm going to do all the right things, meal prep, eat good, do this, try to get some exercise in. My goals are high, but I can easily see how this week it won't be for me. It'll be Thursday.
Again, do you see how easily we fall into the doingness, as opposed to that understanding of the beingness of the who? Right? If the who were there, theoretically, the doingness would follow.
It's true.
Right. So let me suggest something to you also, though. When you were a kid, or just observing your own children, they think they're Superman. And in that moment, they are. They have no concept of getting slammed. No. It hasn't happened yet, right? So when they say, I'm going to be a fireman, yeah, they're going to be a fireman. There's no question about it. Like, they're able to just declare it and actually do it.
Right.
Right. And then, of course, inevitably, they're going to probably say that to somebody, I'm going to be the starting center fielder for the Yankees. Oh, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that.
Right.
Or I'm going to be the president, right? Kids say that all the time. I'm going to be the president. I'm going to be a senator. Yeah. Right then, in that moment, there's no doubt that they can do that. They can be that. And then, of course, they get slammed. It's amazing when you think about it. We are all not in the fetal position every day. When you think about how often, how consistently we've gotten slammed in life, and how many different ways.
Yeah.
Constant.
Trisha, you have something to say.
Yeah. So then it becomes yourself is in the way, right?
Yeah.
Not really anybody else. It's yourself is in the way. I always am a time crunch. Everything, I live my life like by the hour, like an hour to do this. It'll take me an hour to drive there. Like, so I live myself by the hour. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I had all intentions of getting on the Peloton for a half hour, but had I carved out a half hour some point in the day instead of scrolling on social media, or
Mhm.
nonsense, that would have been me not getting in my own way. So
And no,
Yeah.
it's true. There's so many times where I'll turn around. I mean, more times than I care to admit, but it's like, wow, I was so productive. I got so much done today. I still managed to find time doing something mindless for 20 minutes. Why didn't I just jump off for 20 minutes? Why wasn't I squatting for 10? Why couldn't I just do listen, and the crazy part is when you feel yourself, especially for you, if you're working out or doing well and you feel like you're really determined, super motivated, when you're almost at the top of that hill. I was looking at my steps on my watch. I'm like, ooh, I'm only 300 steps from 20,000. And I'm sweaty. This is a few weeks ago. And here I am. I turn the shower on and I'm like, it's my clock resets at 12 o'clock. It's like 11:30 at night. And I'm like, this is me in my bathroom. John goes, what are you doing in the bathroom? And it's like, getting my steps in. I walked one side of my bathroom to the other to hit the 300. I was like, but it's funny when you just try to get it done. It's a constant race against the clock.
always a clock.
You know?
Mhm.
Well, time is one of those things that slams us and always has. We have not mastered time. Time is part of the physical universe, right? Time and space and matter. These are all things that are part of the physical universe. And the physical universe, all it knows to do is to slam.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the physical universe where possibility exists.
But I also think, God, I was
Uh,
going to say, I think that when you get slammed, you go into survival mode as opposed
100%.
to like, and then you make all bad decisions based on the fact that you're in utter survival versus.
Mm.
I don't even think it's bad decisions. I think they're like desperate decisions, right?
Yes,
Like when
yes.
you make these choices that when you look back upon, you're like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. This goes back, and I remind myself of this. There's always a choice. There's always something that can be done to make this beneficial for yourself, for your family, whatever your situation may be. And I'm not just talking about food or a diet. There's always a chance to make a better decision, right? Even if you're against the gun, against the time, you're getting things thrown at you from every direction. Sometimes it takes that. Okay, you need that. Okay, take a deep breath, get a grip, pull it together, and prioritize. Focus on what happened. You have to really think of the big picture all the time. And I think what happens is we're so focused on just trying to get to the finish line, we're missing why we're really focusing on the big picture. Like we're forgetting what we really want out of this. Because I mean, me and Trisha say this all the time. I'm constantly chasing my tail.
Always.
And although I'm being productive and getting things accomplished for everything around me, at the end of the day, if I sit down, it's like, okay, for myself, take yourself out of that equation. Like, oh man, is it the end of the world if the laundry's not folded? Is it the end of the world if I didn't make it to this party? Is it the end of the world if if I took 20 minutes off of sitting down to just work out for myself? You kind of have to change your perspective, like what you really want. What is it that you really want long-term for yourself so that you can continue to do for others? So you can also be that part for everybody else.
Right.
There's a bigger picture that we're missing.
Yeah, well, here's where we're going to end off, which is the fact that there are people out there who are living and being and accomplishing the way that they perceive they're supposed to. There are people who have closed that gap between who they are now and who they're supposed to be, which I guess becomes who they are now.
Yes.
Right? They're just able to live on that level. So the possibility exists. And the question is what's different with them? They've gotten slammed 1,000 million times also, just like the rest of us. Right? So what is different about them? How are they able to do it?
I think a lot of it's self-love.
That's not a...
Sorry. Sorry.
That's a teaser for next week, Jackie.
Oops.
Let's think about it, and we'll come back next week, and we'll figure it all out for everyone's sake, right? This isn't just for us. We all have to figure this out.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So so that's going to be it for today. Thank you for joining us. Listen, Jack, we got to send out those audios, right?
Yes, you can listen later on, watch later on.
That's it. You can I suggest listening in your car. It makes a commute very much less painful. So that is my suggestion for you. Everyone, have a fantastic day. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye, guys.
We're still on.